Alright, so today we're going to look at the law of cosines. The law of cosines is used when we have an SAS triangle or an SSS triangle. So if we had side angle side or side side side, that's the indicator that we're going to use law of cosines. Now, law of cosines has three different equations, but they're all handled the same way. It just depends on what information it gives us. If we look at the first equation, just to kind of show you on this triangle what's going on, we're going to try and find side A, given that we know B, C, and angle A. Alright, so that's SAS, right? Now, we can also use this when we have the three sides. So let's say we had side A, B, and C. That'd be SSS, right? We can use it to find whatever angle measure it asks us to find. We would just have to end up doing some algebra and then the inverse of cosine to get the angle measure to solve for that. So let's look at an example. First, we're going to start with looking at SAS. So set up your triangle first. Alright, so we have A, B, and C. So it tells us side A is 12, side B is 18, and angle C is 44 degrees. So we have SAS. Alright, so SAS, we're going to use law of cosines, and it's asking us to find the missing side. So the missing side would be C. So I want to use the formula that's C squared equals. So that would be this. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of 44 degrees. So after we plug in everything, it would look like this. 12 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 12 times 18 cosine of 44 degrees. So you can type this into your calculator all in one step if you would like. I like to break it down into a couple steps just so I don't accidentally type something wrong into the calculator. So 12 squared would be 144. 18 squared would be 324. And then negative 2 times 12 times 18 would be minus 432 cosine of 44 degrees. So adding up these things here, 144 and 324, and then subtracting 432 times cosine of 44 leaves me with 157.245. Now to get C by itself, I'm going to square root both sides. So we get C equaling approximately 12.5 after rounding. Alright? So if you want to try B on your own, go ahead and pause the video and try it. It's set up the same way. So let's go ahead and solve this. First, we're going to set up our triangle. Now, I noticed that A is 120 degrees. Now, this isn't super important, but I know that that is an obtuse angle. So when I go to set up my triangle, I'm just going to make it look a little bit different here. So A, B, C. Again, you don't have to do this. You're not going to be graded on that or anything like that. So A is 120. Side B is 30. Side C is 24. So this time, we're solving for side A. So I want to pick the formula that starts with A squared equals. So B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. Plugging everything in, A squared equals 30 squared plus 24 squared minus 2 times 30 times 24 cosine of 120. Doing a little bit of calculating in the calculator here. We have 900 plus 576 minus 1440 cosine of 120 degrees. So adding these guys up and doing our subtracting there, we get a squared equals 2,196. Square root both sides to get a by itself, and we get a equaling approximately 46.9. Alright, so that's using the law of cosines when we have an SAS triangle. Now let's look at a word problem that'll go with this. So we have a triangular lot. It gives us two side measures. Okay, so we have 84 feet and 78 feet. And it tells me that the angle between the two sides is 102 degrees. So I always like to use, in this instance, I would make this my angle A. You don't have to do that, of course, right? Any way you set up your triangle, as long as it's SAS, meaning that the angle's in between the two sides, you'll get the same answer. It's just your variables might be a little different than mine. So setting up my triangle here, we have 102 degrees BC. So I'm going to make side C 84 and side B 78. Again, it doesn't matter if you had it the other way around, you would get to the same answer using the law of sines. So this is an SAS triangle. Okay, and it's very important that when you set up your triangle that you set it up correctly so that it is an SAS triangle. And the way we can tell that is by reading the sentence here, and it tells me that the angle between the two sides. Okay, so that means that it's the angle that's going to be made from those two sides meeting, which would be this right here. Alright, so I'm trying to find side A. So I'm using the formula a squared b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. Plugging in everything I know, we would have 78 squared plus 84 squared, 2 times 78 times 84, cosine of 102 degrees. So 78 squared is 7,056. 84 squared is 6,084. 2 times 78 times 84 is negative 13,104 times the cosine of 102 degrees. Adding up everything and subtracting, we get a squared equaling 15,864.5. Now I need to square root both sides. So a is approximately 126 feet. Now that's not my final answer. When you read the sentence here, or a question, it asks for the total amount of fencing, not just side A's amount of fencing. So we have to add up all the different side lengths. So my total is going to be 126 feet plus 84 feet plus 78 feet. So the total amount of fencing I would need is 288 feet. Alright, now we're going to look at, given three sides, we're going to find the specified angle. So, setting up the triangle real quick, we have A, B, C. Side A is 32, B is 20, and C is 40. And it's asking us, let's find angle B. So I want to use the formula that has cosine of b attached to it. So that's the one that starts with b squared. A squared plus c squared 2ac cosine of b. Plugging in everything. 20 squared equals 32 squared plus 40 squared minus 2 times 32 times 40 cosine of b. So I don't know the angle measure this time, so I'm just going to leave it as b. Doing all my squaring and multiplying, we would have 400 equals, I'm going to do 32 squared plus 40 squared all in one step. So that would be 2,624 Doing my multiplying, I get 2560 cosine of b. So I'm going to subtract first the 2624 to the other side. So that would leave me with negative 2224, negative 2560 cosine of b. Now, to get cosine by itself, I'm going to divide that number in front to the other side. So we would have the cosine of b equaling, typing that in the calculator, that does simplify if you want to, just to make the fraction a little bit easier to write. It's 139 over 160. Now, to find what angle B is, I'm going to have to use the calculator, and I'm going to have to make use of my inverse trig. So, angle B equals the inverse of cosine, 139 over 160. Typing that into your calculator, you would get that angle B is approximately 29.7 degrees. So SSS, which is what this triangle is, right? I know the three sides. Little bit more work, right? You have to do a little bit more subtracting and dividing and all that stuff, and then we have to make use of our inverse trig. So example B, same type of problem. So if you want to try it on your own first, go for it. Go ahead and pause the video. If not, here we go. So set up the triangle. Side A is 60, side B is 88, and side C is 120. And we're trying to find angle C. So that means I need to use this formula. Plug in everything I know. So 120 squared equals 60 squared plus 88 squared. 2 times 60 times 88 cosine C. So same thing as before. Let's do our squaring and multiplying and adding and all that stuff. So 120 squared, 14400. 60 squared plus 88 squared would be 11,344. Alright, so doing all my multiplying, that gives me 10,560. So subtract. Leaves me with 3,056. And then divide. So we have cosine of C equaling negative 191 over 660. Again, I like to simplify the fraction just to make it easier to write, but again, you don't have to do that. So again, I need to get C by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to use my calculator, and I would type in cosine inverse, that's negative 1, of negative 191 over 660, and that would give me an angle measure of 106.8 degrees. So that is the law of cosines.